Hello, hello. Check audio. Hi. Okay, I am heard. Hi, guys. And welcome to another Tarcy Talks. We are on class 44, so 6 more until the end. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know when it'll end, but yeah. So we're on class 44, and let's see. So okay. What before I go back to Joshua in the Discord call? I hope you guys have had a good week. The past week. This is in spite of rising COVID cases. This is in spite of so many other things. And yeah, a lot of stressors and a lot of issues that are coming up. So regardless, I hope that you've all been keeping safe, that continue to keep yourself safe, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and hopefully this next hour and a half, maybe even 30 minutes. Honestly, this topic is kind of a wild card, but yeah, hopefully this can provide some levity or some maybe food for thought. Honestly, this topic it's not a happy-go-lucky topic, and Okay, a bit of background about the topic. So it was something that I was already thinking of. It's contrary to what people might think. It was not something thought of in response to uh, certain events during the, especially that were especially highlighted this weekend. So I was thinking of it even almost immediately after last week's stream, because yeah, I mean, it's an issue. It's definitely an issue. So prior to, I mean, in previous classes, we've talked a lot about opinions, about how to talk about your ideas with other people. And one of the things that I think we've already touched on before is that just because that we need to, I suppose, be better about how we dialogue about things. And because we see a lot of very unproductive discussion on online, especially online, because there's a lot of very, they enter the conversation with a very, I suppose, closed mindset that uh, the goal is to troll, the goal is to make fun, rather than to actually have a conversation with the person. So I think we used before an example of like people who are flat Earth believers, and then you see people mocking. They post comments. So maybe these flat Earth believers, they have a particular Facebook post or whatever, and then the comments are really just, they're not there for discussion. They're not there to help the person change their mind. They're just there to bloat the ego and self-esteem of the one who is making the comment, that I'm to kind of say, I'm so much smarter than this person. Look at how I'm humiliating this person, because or look how much smarter I am compared to this person. It's really more of self gratification. You see the same thing in politics, honestly. That I mean, especially with the approaching elections, uh, depending on what political side you are. So there's a lot of chatter. There's not a lot of discussion, and that's why that was the general inspiration for this topic. That why don't they listen? To kind of build off what we talked about last week. Um, we were well, for one thing, for example, I uh, I did feel a little bit exposed last week. I ended up having to talk a lot about my own personal details, and I normally don't do it unless I normally do it in a kind of one-on-one conversation kind of thing, that I kind of talk about my own religious convictions and all these things, because religion is a big thing for me. And it kind of felt weird to talk about it on stream last week, and so it felt awkward for me at the moment, and it felt even worse right after the stream. It felt like parang I was bringing up something that wasn't really meant to be there. But anyway, past is past. And I kind of recall that the reason why I don't normally talk about uh, religion, even though it's a big part of who I am, is because the person that I'm talking to needs to be prepared to hear it. That I don't want to come off as preachy, because when you hear of preachy as a complaint, because preaching, of course, is a verb. It's something that people do. But when you describe someone as preachy, normally it's used to describe someone who pretty much just talks and doesn't really care about the people who are listening to him. That they're there. Uh, them talking is not really to convince the other person or to provide information, but more to kind of, the person talking is just there to talk. They feel good for talking. They feel good for, they just want to, them talking feels good. And the reason that I don't like talking too much about my personal views on religion in a kind of more public setting, it's normally on a one-on-one basis and very contextual. It's because, for me to bring something up like that, it's really to have a proper discussion, and I need to kind of see that the person that I'm talking to is really willing to listen. Even less the idea of like converting. So I, I I'm already starting to feel awkward right now. Pero let me just use this example. So I don't like that idea of I suppose even though it would make me happy if a lot of people were more religious, if they were more abiding in terms of faith. Uh, I I don't like the idea of parang going out there and converting people. I mean, not per se, but more of for a person to change their mind, they have to be willing to change their mind in the first place. That even if they might listen to me, it doesn't mean that they will automatically change my mind. And that's kind of the main gist of the title. That we have a lot to say. Uh, honestly, everyone has a lot to say, and I think that there's this idea that um, all we need to do for there to be for things to get better is that if I let this person know what's going on, give them the proper information, they will see things from my point of view, and then they will come to my same conclusions and make this what I think would be the best decision. But that's not normally the case, and we see a lot of examples of that. We see that in it's kind of an extension of um, that idea that is we said na uh, just because just because we can actually dialogue with people doesn't mean that uh, something will come. Your desired outcome will happen. I recall mentioning last week that when it came to kind of setting goals, setting resolutions, that it's not a good idea to have as a resolution things that are outside of your control. So things that like, okay, I want to have a grade of uno. I want to have so and so because they are not directly something that you can take control of. And in this same vein, we cannot also control how other people think. That even if we tell them so many things, we explain so many things, there it could just if our goal is to get them to understand, uh, it's not always something that's going to happen. And even if they do understand, even if they are able to kind of dialogue with us to the point that they understand our position, it doesn't mean that they will come to the same conclusions that we have. Anyway, this topic is a mess, really, because especially with the context from the weekend, which we will kind of touch on. Well, we'll definitely talk about it. But Sir Q and I were kind of really discussing even until right before the stream started what exactly are we trying to get out of this. We thought it was. I thought it was timely. I thought I kind of had it, but the more I talked about with Sir Q, there were even more complications. So honestly, I have no idea how this topic is going to end up. So yeah, we'll see. Anyway, let me just go to the call with Sir Q. Are you there?
That was a reach. Grabe. That was really reaching out there. Anyways, hi. Am I on? Am I live?
Yeah.
Am I live? Hello.
Yeah,
hello?
you're live.
Okay. I'll just mute the YouTube. Okay. So hi, good evening everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. To the 18 people that are listening to us right now. Honestly, we were hoping that only a few people would find out about this stream because this would be the most controversial stream ever. Not just because of the clickbait title that Mark chose, but more of there are a lot of opinions that are going to be thrown out there that might not be agreed upon by the people. But shying away from discussing it is something that I don't think it only makes the problem worse. To talk about it, to how do we get to understand how we feel about it, this is something that I feel, and I think Sir Tarcy also, Mark also feels the same way. It's something that we were actually, Mark was right that we were we were discussing all the way up. I was watching the YouTube timer go down for the episode for premiering this episode. All the way up to the last 2 minutes, we were discussing what should be the takeaway from this? What should we how should we go about this? Well, what about if we talk about this? Then suddenly it won't it won't match, or we might come out with something even worse from what they were feeling from the start get go. And Mark was also already asking me, should we cancel? Should we maybe postpone the episode? Maybe next week na lang. I was thinking, we just made a resolution for ourselves that we'll try to be consistent with our streams na at least twice a month. Although next week could have been fit with the resolution, but it's a timely issue. It's a timely issue because this might be something to do also with how our students are feeling right now. Not only students, but also alumni students. I know that they're feeling this way as well. They are talking to certain figures that don't seem to listen to them. So with that, again, hi to we have people here in our comment section. We have Bianca, we have Marie, we have Nathan also here. We have Lucas also who got oh no, I think he got clickbaited by the title, but thank you for joining in. I hope it gives much context. And what Sir Tarcy was referring to when in the start of the episode was uh I accident it was I accidentally brought up uh his 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 upbringing from the last episode. Again, Mark, I only asked a few things. You were
I
the
know.
one
I
who took
Yeah, yeah,
super
yeah.
detail,
I know. I know.
but I do understand. In this scenario, you were trying to contextualize how to connect from the last later on kind of made sense. So if I was listening, if I just jumped in, what's happening? But how you were able to bridge it? Okay, yeah, acceptable. I understand. But yun nga eh, there are things in ours. I wouldn't say stages of life because that would be too melodramatic, too episodic, too too milestone of ourselves to talk about it. It's something that happens maybe on a regular basis. Actually, sometimes we have these obstacles that we can't go over, and as much as we want to go over, we have talked about it in our previous streams that try to discourse, try to talk about it. It seems like it doesn't work, and because it doesn't work, because no matter how much you try to understand, you reflect on yourself, how is this good for myself, for others, and so on, what is my end goal with this. And after you've internalized everything, the moment that you manifest it or you materialize it or you try to be vocal about it, it doesn't work. So in this scenario, there are circumstances beyond you that prevent you from happening, and it frustrates you. Before we get into that, it's still too early into the time. It's still too early. We have to reach this to how many minutes so that we get our ad revenue. Um, no, just kidding, just kidding. Uh, First things first. With the new year, new us, new things. New things comes with checking up on how we are. With that, how's your stats in Valorant, Mark? you
You
have
know.
been playing.
Hmm.
You've been playing Valorant a bit more than before. So,
I
what's your take on
mean,
Valorant? No, no, what's your take na lang? I know it's too soon to say. It's too soon to talk about your stats and strats in Valorant, but more on how do you find it?
mm, I mean, it's fun, pero it's also, I know, it's long. Parang,
That's it. I feel like it's very fast. Like the matches go by really, really
no, no.
fast.
I mean, of course, definitely the matches feel like they go by very fast, pero it's more of okay, start playing at 10, and then like, parang after just three
Three
sets
matches,
of
it's like
ano, parang
12:30.
yeah. So parang
Like even I also I still figuring out the time pit that is Valorant because it feels so fast. We say the first okay, we do one death match to practice our aim and movements. The first match we lose, we just say, okay, that's warm up. But that's just pre warm up. Like, okay, we kind of get it now. We're still working as a team. working now. We know our stats. We try to figure out the agent. Okay, next round. Next round, win or lose, we suddenly start asking, okay, now good for the first game, one more game. Or if your dailies aren't finished, let's try to finish our dailies. And then you do one more game, it's already 2 hours since
Mm,
you've started opening a Valorant. And it's such a time pit. And honestly, I'm so surprised that people get things done despite playing Valorant. Now, uh, I can't say that for myself because I find it difficult to manage my time with Valorant. But the students that I do get to play with, funnily enough, I do notice that, well, based from my subject, I'm not sure about ComSci, but based from my subject, they actually have their submissions done. I just finished checking their submissions and, whoa, okay. So, kaya palang tapang nila magyaya sa akin dahil pag pala sila sa akin. Sa ComSci ba? The students that that we were playing with. Did you check
yeah,
their
let's not talk
requirements?
about this on stream.
All right, all right, all right. But it is surprising that there are students that are able to manage gameplay with study, and it's a very hard. Honestly, for me, it's a very hard thing to do. How you compartmentalize gaming from studying, or them, or how you fix them in your rigid schedule, especially with Pisai. Pisai does have a very rigid schedule that you have to follow, which makes it harder for you to do the things that you want. Like you're only allowed to do one specific hobby. That's it. Then everything is study. Or well, I couldn't speak on behalf of students because I wasn't a Pisai student myself. How about you, Mark? When you were
Mm,
still in Pisai, were you able to hobbies while you were a student in Pisai? Was the study regiment that that rigid back then?
did I have hobbies back in high school? Hmm, I can't recall. Uh, I mean, I wasn't that obsessed with studying, so. Mm, and I remember, I know. Anyway, I remember. I think the latest I ever stayed up to do homework was 10 p.m., 11 p.m. I think my first 1 a.m. was already in college. I never reached that far in high school.
But now it seems like it's very normal for our students to be up all the way up to 5 a.m. 5 a.m., 4 a.m., and then they sleep just enough time for them to get into their 8 a.m. class, have breakfast during the break, and then so on and so forth. So parang Nathan says parang chill naman dati. Same goes for our dad. He says parang wala lang yung Pisay back then. But for now, do you feel like it's different? The the regiment of our students nowadays is different from the regiment you were back then? Or is it
Mm,
just nostalgia saying na chill naman ang Pisay dati eh?
I don't know. Parang in terms of requirements, doesn't seem that. No, no I will say no, no. I suppose the pace is faster.
The
Before,
pace
if
is
you if
faster.
you say okay, presentation, they give you 1 week for it. Nowadays, I feel like it's like okay, have the presentation ready by next meeting because the 1 week was so that you could write it on Manila paper and then tape it to the blackboard and then present from there. Nowadays, it's all PowerPoint, so I guess that's a
So
factor.
so like because of technology, we do understand that everything is instant to students as well.
Mm.
Nathan does say that I think standards are generally higher nowadays, considering that Nathan was a teacher in Pisay, and he's much closer to his high school years than both of us are, and he can relate it to the students. Oh, we have. Oh, I think this is Auxilio. Auxilio. I think this is. I'm not sure if this is Jules. Just says back in my day. Are we? Are we? Oh my gosh! Are we boomers that back in my day? Well, it is a significant. It is a significant. We're not actually. It's more on. It's more on advantageous. What would we say advantageous? More on. We're trying to give the younger generation credit because it wasn't as hard as it was back then during our time. Even for law school students, back then law school students, everything during my time, And a lot of our of the teachers of my teachers, my professors back then in law school say that kami nung time nila, they didn't have photocopies. What they had to do was they had to borrow the books and then write it by hand so that they have their notes ready. Pinapagalitan kami kasi wala kaming notes, puro highlight lang daw kami sa mga photocopy namin. And yun nga eh, we I can't blame them because that was have the technology back then. But they can't blame us because grabe naman silang magbigay din ng assignment sa amin back then. Right now, dahil alam nilang pwede kami pa-photocopy, they give us 5 times more, 10 times more cases to read. So, quits lang, I guess. But yeah, it happens when
Josh? Josh, you there? Hello? Hmm. He's still on the call. Hello? Hmm. Hello. uh, okay, so while we're waiting for Circuit to come back, um, honestly, he had the ball rolling already, so I'm not sure what to do. Hang on. Let me see. Let me just message him really quick. Hmm. Okay, so according to Nathan, uh, the cat turned off his PC, I guess, or something.
hello, am I still
Yep.
here? Am I still
Yeah.
here? Okay. Hi. You wouldn't believe what had happened.
The cat.
It's like a dog ate my homework levels. So our cat, black and white, accidentally stepped on my power button and then nag-reset yung laptop ko. Same goes for Mina's kitten. Um, cat, cat now, pretty big cat. Uh, Mina's cat used to jump on the PC and always hits the power button by. It's not by chance anymore eh, kasi mukhang sinasadya eh. Pag hindi siya pinapansin ni Mina, gagawin lulundag sa PC tapos mapipindot yung power button. We had to cover the power button so that Mina could game properly. Anyways, it happens. Anyways, thank you for understanding the technical difficulty. But yeah, difference of what happens from before and now. Especially now, everything's different. Everything everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. But um, we are creatures of consequence. That's one thing. And we are created by the choice. Well, it's not only by the choices we make, but sometimes we're forced into situations that we didn't have a choice into. So, um, so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about why don't they listen. So, as mentioned earlier, there are situations that no matter how much you do, you prepare for, you, you you do all the steps that we've talked about back then in our previous streams, and when you try to manifest it, try to muster up the courage to speak out your feelings, it gets shot down. So how do you deal with these things? Because I think this is something that most of our students are going through. At first, I noticed it was our UP students, our our batch 21, 22. Sorry, our batch 19, 20, and 21. I see their posts on Twitter. They're talking about na um their UP really doesn't.
Yeah.
Whenever I read their tweets, it's like, is UP that harsh? Really expect that much from students? Although it is a state university that is really meant to. It's the churning machine to create um academics, those pioneers in different fields. But seeing all the other schools perform and address to the needs of the students, it seems like UP is uh very tough love, super tough love. I'm not even sure if there's any love. Like it's just tough. But um, then we're going into what's happening right now for our students, for Psy. Now, me and Mark were debating earlier, few minutes before that. Should we talk about the Psy situation? Should we talk about how it feels like it was underhanded na yung announcement and so on and so forth? Like, how do we go about this? And I said my piece was that I think it's something that we have to talk about. We have to talk about um not just because it's Pisay, but more on we have to talk about it because this is the context of our channel that we're trying to relate to you what we know as teachers and try to give our perspective as much as possible so that we know that we're the bridge between the students and the admin. Although there are different bridges such as you have your student council, you have your DSA, academic council, and so on and so forth. Us as teachers, Mark as a teacher in ComSci, me as a SocSci teacher, and also an advisor, we'll give you our perspective because honestly, even us, we're kind of lost with what's happening right now. How about you, Mark? Do you understand what had happened? Why the memo was like that?
No, not at all.
See, but is that a choice because you did not open your email and the email messages or
I
anything?
mean, admittedly, I am kind of narrowing down all of my, all of the information that's coming down to me. So normally, unless the unit head emails me specifically, I don't notice a lot of things. My goal really just prepare for class, prepare everything, everything that I have direct control of, and yeah.
See, for others, it's something that personally I found out about the memo through other channels before it went through the proper stream channel. Uh, Although admittedly also I kind of got the memo through an illegal means as well because I'm still linked up to the student council email, so I'm getting some of the insider information
Mm,
of what's happening, which I shouldn't, but I see kind of see what's happening, and it's hard. It's very hard. I've been in that situation back then when as the advisor, and I know how much it means to be roadblocked, to be blockaded. Na there seems to be no room for discussion. But if it's at that level, what more for students that wish to voice out their opinion? And I see a lot of resentment going on right now. Uh, Mark is still new to the Twitter world. I think he still hasn't added any students yet, or any students had followed him. Oh, by the way, if you want to follow Mark on Twitter, he's using the Tarcy Talks Twitter account, so it would help.
I
It gives an
mean,
insight.
honestly, it's just there for official announcements. I don't. Do I plan on actually following anyone? I mean, I followed news sources and the like, but what else will I use it for? Anyway, that's a different topic.
Me naman, I do subscribe to the follow back method where if someone follows me, I follow them back.
Okay,
I do I actually actively search for students that then I follow them for it looks like it's weird for me.
that
It's
would be a
weird
weird.
if
Mm,
I add them first. So
I
I
would
don't
agree.
usually add them first.
Mm.
I usually wait for students then I add them. But okay, is it because of there's a difference in power or in authority? Like it's weird for an upper someone like a person in authority such as a teacher to add a student. Okay, that's weird.
More
But
of,
also,
I feel like it's just going to be plain uncomfortable for a student to know that their teacher is following them.
okay, that's true. So them following me is kind of consent that it I can follow them back. Now, I also find myself in the same conundrum that I have also senior teachers in Facebook, but I haven't added them yet on Facebook or I haven't followed them yet. So parang is ko, as the junior, should I be like the student? Should I be adding them as well? So like is ko, or am I just that shy or introvert that I really don't want to add people on my social media accounts? I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. Anyways, oh, so one funny thing when it comes to one small story about Twitter on how to follow people. Before the school year started, I tried typing in Electron because I found out who my section was. So I said, Electron. See, let's see who tweets on Twitter talking about them being sectioned in Electron. Then that's how I found Marie, and that's also how Marie found out about her section because she too was lost. She didn't know where to find people. So I was able to add everyone up from the class list and put them into a Google mailing list. So that's how we all found each other before the class list became actually official. But anyways, it does help. Twitter does help sometimes. Sometimes not so much if your mindset isn't that hardened, I guess. Kasi okay, so like right now, it's not the toxicity. I wouldn't say toxicity of students because their claims or not demands. I wouldn't say demands. I wouldn't say claims.
Okay,
But
hang on,
what
hang
they
on, hang
say
on,
on Twitter.
hang on, hang
Wait.
on. So I think we're jumping a bit ahead kasi that's already the reaction. So to
Okay, okay,
something.
okay. Sige, go. You
Okay.
first.
Parang I did try to think of the best way to tackle this, and I think it's best that we always start from a more general premise and then let's go into the
What's your
Okay.
general already?
No.
Okay, as a citizen of the Philippines,
No,
we hear the
not
news on
that
the
kind of
Philippines.
not that kind of general. More of Uh, okay, let's use completely unrelated example like Valorant. Okay, so
I want to hear this.
okay.
From three
Hmm.
Valorant. Let's see how you could use Valorant.
No. Okay, so I'm not normally a fan of co-op gaming.
Uh-huh.
Especially if it's kind of online co-op gaming kasi yun nga, parang there's a lot of toxicity online, especially if people who are
What?
too invested.
We're
And
all nice. We were nice to you, huh?
yeah, I know. That's only if you know the people that you're playing with.
Okay,
But
okay. That's
also in
good.
general, I kind of like to play the way I play. So I have my own idea of how to play. I don't like to kind of overthink too much, especially when it comes to shooter games. So parang, okay, this is how my character moves. Let me just do my thing, and I'll try to help the team win. In
What
Valorant,
do you mean?
I mean, I'm not going to commit to anyone yet. Anyway, um, so in Valorant, it's if you I mean I've seen a few people play Valorant, and it seems really parang there are there are assignments. Parang you have the controllers, you have the duelists, you have what's the other one, initiators, and all of these things.
Use the
And
one.
so there are roles, and
Yes.
it requires you to communicate with other people na parang okay, this is this the goal, this is the expectation na if to be able to use this character well, you have to pair him with this character and use these skills together. So may ganon. I'm not a big fan of that. Parang okay, this is my character, let me just run in, let me shoot, and then if I die, I
I'm
die.
always a
If
solo player.
and yun nga, parang. And I suppose in our games parang yun yan, there were recommendations. Sir, parang you do this, parang I'm going to go here, so you can go there. So there is some but ultimately the way that each person plays is up to them. So I mean, I could be a team player now. I do everything that my teammate says. I could be a bit less of a team player in which I look at what everyone else does and I kind of make my own plan around it. Or I could be completely solo na, okay, let me just run and gun and do something. Okay, so the idea here is that even if we're playing as a team, and we all have the same goal of winning, you have different ways to achieve that. Okay, there's the completely coordinated, micromanaged approach. Okay, this person here, you throw this skill, you throw that skill, and so on and so forth. And then there's the more free flow approach. Okay, this is what everyone is good at, and then let's just start off in these general locations, and then kanya-kanyang adjust. And yeah, okay. Now when it comes to any discussion, honestly, so I feel like whenever we have a discussion, the goal really is to come to an understanding. But I feel like uh, sometimes we forget that just because you come to understanding doesn't mean that you will come to an agreement. That especially if you're passionate about a topic, that uh, especially if you've thought about it, you might even think of yourself as an expert on it. That since you've thought about it so much, if I talk to another person about it, the goal is to impart information so that they think like me, and therefore they would come to the same conclusion I did. So if let's say I'm talking to someone, it can be about anything. It can be about sci, it can be about religion, it can be about gaming even. And okay, we have two different perspectives. We dialogue, and if I go into that conversation, of course, I have my own perspectives and I have my own idea of what is the best way to do something. Then my goal is to explain my side to that other person so that they understand what my thinking and they will agree with me. Are you still there, Yash?
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Go on, go on.
Okay, am I? Yeah,
You're in a row.
And so yun, especially with online communication nowadays, in which honestly online communication is very one-sided. It's not like a video call in which okay you can say something and then they will respond back. Tweets are honestly Twitter is pretty much independent. I mean you build off I suppose what someone started, but as soon as you build off on it, it's not like it's a back and forth. Not often anyway. But the I think what I norm again this kind of I'm not an expert I've yet to take my ed units but what I think to be the problem nowadays is that a lot of people go into a discussion with that mindset of convincing the person to have my perspective, and so they will come to the same conclusion that I have. So basically the end result is that we go with what I thought was what I think is the best choice. But the I'm kind of stumbling here, but the thing here
Good
is
and
that
good.
you, as much as dialogue does facilitate such things, we cannot control how other people process information. We cannot. The fact is, your experiences are your experiences. No one will ever, I mean, no one can feel exactly the way that you felt up when hearing certain things. No one has experienced the things that you've experienced, which allow you to view things in a particular manner. And so, you try to explain, you try to give all of your experiences to translate it to them so that they can sort of live it vicariously through you and experience the same things. And we think that after that, they should agree, and yet they don't. And the thing is, I don't think that's unusual, or rather, you shouldn't. I don't think that uh, once you're done explaining that we should be convinced na okay, since I've explained everything, you should agree with me, or parang you should at least understand that thing of uh, that this thing that I'm trying to say. And if they don't, you get frustrated. I say, why don't you understand? I've just spent the past 20 minutes, 30 minutes, our days talking to you, trying to explain everything as to why I'm feeling this way, why I think this way, why I think we should do this, and yet they don't. And it frustrates us. And yeah, it's that frustration that leads us to believe that they don't listen. Parang, do you think that's it? Parang, it is a matter of not understanding or that we perceive as not listening or... Ano? What do you think, Josh?
The thing is, when it comes to in that, um, how open is that person to, because you do speak out, and that person has to be open enough to be able to change their perspective as well.
Okay, agree.
Now, there's a threat to that for them. I think there's a threat to that. That's why they immediately close off the discussion. That they don't want to, they don't want the discourse because sometimes they would say they know better, or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it just might maybe because they really do know better. They know something that we don't. That's why we give them the trust to do these things for us, or to make these decisions for us. Now, what happens to the point that maybe you do, maybe you are holding information this is important, that's why we have to do this, but if you don't explain it to me properly, I'll still continue to feel like this, that I'm not heard. I know the solution, so why not hear me out? Or why don't you correct me at least? So in this scenario, so like what Nathan said in the comments, if you're reading, like for him, it's a super pet peeve when I'm saying but. So it's like you're dismissing that person already. Harvey also says other people live in different framework and it's ignorant to assume that the other person's framework matches yours in a way to achieve the same conclusion. And that's the thing. Um, it's very different from one another. Everyone's perspective, everyone's role, everyone's experience is unique to themselves. And to open oneself to, because it feels like people might take it as criticism when you have to hear someone say what you have done, what you have to say. So in this scenario, how do we try to fix this? Because I think this is where we're getting to a point now. Maybe like should are we going into specifics now? Can we say
Okay, yeah,
specifics?
yeah, we can go into proper context now. So you can start with your weekend.
Okay, let's
What
say
happened during the weekend?
no. Like when we talk about institutions, uh, they might they might say that we know better, therefore our policy, we get to decide on the policy. What happens to students when they're not heard? They become more frustrated, and when they become more frustrated, it affects not only their physical health but also their mental health. They can't do their work. They can't do what they're supposed to do. And back of their mind, while they're doing their requirements or while they're doing things that they're told to do, they feel resentment because they're not heard. And this is something that we need to address. Like, do we are we trying to like say, so are we as teachers saying that we're telling our students, do we have trust the system, know that what the school is doing is right? Are we saying at this point?
The thing is, I don't think trust and parang, well, okay, maybe maybe they aren't. I'm not using the proper word here, trust, but um, okay, I think let's say I don't think it's too how to say, what's the right word? Conflicting or too uh I don't think it's a conflict if I say that I believe that the school has my best interests, at the same time be able to critique that what they're doing. So I don't think that's a conflict. So parang, as for trust in the sense na do whatever the school tells you, okay, that's probably uh
Questionable.
yeah, parang I mean, I know the thing is the concept of trust is okay. Should we define what kind of trust this is? Parang, is it blind trust? Is it trust na parang ano,
True,
or
true. That I think we need to contextualize trust as well.
okay? I guess ano. In this case, the kind of trust that I'm looking for is at the very least trust that uh, intention is there, that
Mhm.
they have the best interest. As for, do they actually have all the right information? Do they have everything planned out properly? Do they is everything that they decide correct? I don't think that's the kind of trust that is needed in these kinds of
Mm,
conversation. If I have a conversation with someone that I don't completely agree with, my idea of trust is that they will be completely honest about everything. They're not trying to kind of one up me, just trying to win the conversation, so to speak. But rather, they're there to properly dialogue. And uh, okay, they might not agree. They might not. We might not see eye to eye on certain things. That what I see is a good thing, they might see as a potential threat. Okay, but I trust them to that they are making such a decision with the common goal in mind, which is whatever that conversation is about.
yes.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so
in the
no,
context of
you're
an
right. Okay, to context that. Okay, so what if we have scenarios such as what happened with UP? UP had declared that um all the schools are going on break in order to promote their mental health and to make sure that they are fed. Therefore, we are imposing a reading break for the school for our students.
is that what happened? Honestly, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think it did happen with the UP. Minsan, I might need help from our UP, our alumni that are currently in UP. That I did see that there while everyone else were having their academic ease or were having mental health breaks, UP decided that of your classes you'll only have a reading break. You're expected to read all of these things, but not attend class.
Okay, okay.
So,
So, uh, just to, for me to kind of retell the story so that I make sure that I have it. So, other schools were completely no classes, no
yeah.
requirements, no nothing, while UP was still continuing in a
Mm-mm.
softer sense, in the sense na, okay, parang, we'll lighten the load, but there's still a load. Yan ba?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now in this scenario, how it's very because it becomes a distinction. There's now a comparison between UP students and other students in this
Mm-hmm.
scenario, such as that um bakit yung mga taga UP lang ba hindi nadadapuan ng COVID, hindi sila affected ng nangyayari ngayon sa outside of school, that their families are getting sick. All other universities are having their break to attend to these issues aside from academics. Um, UP students have to stay strong and work through the workload.
Mm, okay. Did UP have a
So,
response, or
oh
was
yeah,
there an?
a lot of our based from what I've been reading from our students, our alumni, that they do have valid I think they do have valid concerns because these were the concerns that they raised. It seems unfair that UP stands alone. Like, why are they distinct from other college students that are similarly situated? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why are they treated differently as opposed to the other students that are having their leave, their mental health break, their and so on and so forth. So how appeal to their school, and I think it's much harder for them because their system, they have such a big system that it's very wide that it's harder to create or enforce policies in order to because not only does it have to affect their only campus, but they have to make sure that it's aligned with the whole system, and then that it's also aligned with the government policies set in place for them because they are a public school. What's happening right now to our school as well. So, ayun. How do we because are we thinking that these academic institutions know better, that that's why they push on with these policies and don't listen to, because I can't speak for UP in this scenario, that they didn't listen to their student alliance, their student government, but I can speak for Okay, I'm not sure. I'm also not sure. Maybe may taga-SC dyan na nandito sa chat natin might be able to speak for us that I'm pretty sure that they had spoken out. Also, the EPTC had spoken out in relation to this. And the reasoning that was given to Pisay was that to our students was that it was because of academic calendar.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we had to stick to this schedule. That's why while all other schools and even Quezon City, we're similarly situated with all other schools in Quezon City. Pisay was not was a school that wasn't considered part of the suspension.
Wait, so EPTC said that we have to follow the academic calendar?
No. It was no. What I was saying was SC and the EPTC said that
Ah, okay.
they were trying to appeal to the school
Ah, okay, okay.
need the break.
Mm-hmm.
So ayun. Now I'm seeing on our well, I did send you messages. Go to Twitter, search for Pisay. I'm pretty sure you can find anything. The response of our students.
Honestly, I'm
And
surprised we don't have a hashtag yet.
uh, I think batch 2023 got into trouble because of that.
Hmm.
uh, they did have a legitimate concern.
Agreed.
Uh, except that I was part of SC back then. It kind of went. It didn't go through the proper channel, but it did make things go faster. The pressure, but it made things very sour between the SC and the admin and even faculty. Faculty thought that it was SC who made that hashtag. Hindi kami. It wasn't SC that made it, but it's there. The image was there, and we got the heat for it. But when issuing tags, oh, and take note. Actually, what I'm proud about our students is that actually they did take the step forward because they said that part of the announcement of school was that pursuant to the LGU, they had to clarify at first whether or not included nga ba talagang Pisay. And there were actually some students that actually called the LGU and clarified, is Pisay included in the announcement? However, they found out no. It
Mm,
only applies to DepEd schools, and therefore, Pisay was not similarly situated. Now, in the
mm,
scenario, it did give a backing for Mancom. For admin, not Mancom in particular, sorry. For the admin. Uh, but us as teachers, how do we how do we relate this to the students to help them understand when we as teachers also don't understand what's happening right now? Because like what's happening? Canceling their classes because they too are sick.
mhm,
Supposedly the mandate for us is that give give as much extension to the students na they can submit their submissions at the end of the quarter. No more deductions. Okay, that much is clear. But having them to attend class. How was your class? Did you have sync classes today?
Not today, no,
Not today. Wait, why not?
because I have sync classes on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
So for me, I said I decided na okay, let's not meet. Try to attend to the things that you need to prioritize. But please send me a message to let me know how you are, how's your family, and is there anything that I can do as your advisor to help out? Are you
Mhm,
behind any subjects that I can tap to your teacher? So that's me. But I had to think of that kind of approach.
mhm,
Not every teacher has the same approach.
mhm.
Not every advisor would have the same approach. I think, honestly, I think that's sobrang lax ko. Maraming non-submissions yung yung section ko. I was checking my requirements and it's my section that has the least amount of submissions compared to the other subjects. But again, I'm lax. I'm lax towards my class kasi I want them to prioritize their other things first. And I think maybe they because I understand them, that's why they're prioritizing other subjects. But I don't know. But yun nga eh, I'm also just as lost as the students as to how to explain to them the rationale of our admin.
Okay, well, I mean, rather than trying to explain the rationale of the admin, which honestly, if the admin is not going to say anything other than meeting
Hmm.
the calendar and following the set calendar year, I mean, we can interpret as much as we like, pero it's not going to get confirmed. So unless the admin clarifies, or no, it's not so much we can do. But I think what we can do is that we can kind of understand what our own goals are in this case. So okay, which might, it's kind of like ano, parang, yeah, okay, fine, we disagree on a lot of things, but we probably do agree on some things, even if ano, parang our way of approaching it is different. So, and the I think the problem here really is there are so many players involved, and
Yes.
everyone wants different things. Teachers have their own goals, students have their own goals, admin has their own goals. We don't know what they are, but they have goals, definitely. That's probably why they're doing what they're doing. Uh, I mean, yeah, again, this implies the trust. Okay, they're doing something because for given what they know, it's they think it's best as a whole. Whether it's for the entire school institution, maybe they're considering PSI as a whole system, maybe they're considering the campus, maybe they're considering individual students. I don't know. Unless they tell us, I don't know. But they they probably have a reason that they're doing something. Um, but
I
as
agree
for
with the notion that every person is rational. Na
well,
they have a
uh,
reason, but not necessarily that reason might be
yeah,
right.
yeah, parang ano. So people, people have a reason. People always have reasons. It's just that yun, parang
Mhm.
that reason is not always great or rational or even right. Even though anyway, but okay. Okay. I think maybe let's explain a little about. Okay, as a teacher in this situation, what's your goal? Or do you want me to go first before I put
You
you on the
first. You
spot?
first. I have to figure out. I have to pattern my answer with your answer.
Okay. The difficult part here, really, for teachers in general, I think, is that teachers are in the middle, in which that, well, is admin in the middle of something? I guess it's admin is in the middle of the government and everyone else. So honestly, and that's really a hard thing to we can probably get to that later. But okay, so which means to say we have to kind of balance the goals that we have for students, or rather the goals of the students and the goals of admin. As teachers, we're supposed to make sure that once a student goes through us, uh, we provide we have we kind of I suppose we kind of verify, or we say that okay, if this student passed my class, then he knows this much, and therefore he can pass my class, or I kind of verify that he knows this. Um, because that's why we have curriculum. That's why we can't just change and teach whatever we want, and so on and so forth. On the student side, the goal is really to impart the lesson to make sure that they learn, but at the same time also keep in mind their health and the proper ways of dealing with students. And in this particular context, so daming naipit because they suddenly come into conflict, those two goals. So uh, because teachers, as much as I mean, we have our restriction in a certain sense, or parang we have to work within certain bounds. So let's say, for example, we do something like, okay, one of the things that if I were completely free to do, uh, uh, I could, I could chop off the entire fourth quarter and just make it, okay, let's just, let me spread out third quarter topics into the fourth quarter and make it so much lighter. I can't do that because, again, uh, based on what I'm supposed to do as a teacher, the duty given to me by the school is to teach all of these topics. And in fact, I'm already kind of skirting the line here because I've modified so many of those topics to make it into something a bit more palatable for the students. But in general, all of the topics are there. If they ask me to point out, okay, where's this lesson, I can point it out. And if I suddenly cut it, in the interest of making things easier for the student, uh, yeah, parang, I'm going against admin. If I just, I suppose, ano, follow what the set curriculum, na, okay, this is the requirement this week, this is the requirement next week, and so on and so forth, then I'm kind of violating my own values in terms of what my goals are for the student, that they are able to learn in a good environment. And so it comes to a point na I'm going to disappoint someone, or parang I'm going to disappoint both of them a little, or maybe I'm going to disappoint one side a lot. But I think it's when someone is put in that position, that's when the idea comes na, why is this person not listening? Parang, or parang, I mean, he's listening, but he still doesn't get it. Parang, I mean, if he really understood us, he would do this. And I think that's part of it. That's part of that sentiment that in trying to kind of, uh, navigate this, uh, we end up either um, we end up with people who are unsatisfied, either a lot or a little, depending on how much we've compromised on certain things. And then the idea is that they're not listening, they're not following what we're saying, or they don't understand where we're coming from. Because if they did, then they would do exactly what we said would be good for us, which was to, I don't know, give us a break or to directly implement everything that we told them. Okay, I'm done. What do you think?
Um, you're right. Um, in relation to okay, I wouldn't say okay. Based on what you said, the students try
Josh, you
to
there?
justify what. Hello, do you hear me?
Yeah, you got cut off.
Okay, okay. So, uh, based
Based
on
on
what
what
you
I said.
said,
Mm.
our listeners might be thinking that we're pro admin, uh, but
Really?
honestly,
Did I
it's
say that?
it's not a little bit. It
Okay.
it kind of negates what the students might be feeling because the students might have to understand as well that we're stuck in the middle because we're the ones who certify that you actually did learn these important components so that you're considered as a PSI graduate. For me, example, you might not think that SOC 4 is very important, constitutional is important. Like I can remove, like right now, we've actually have the Bill of Rights. Like our students from during the pandemic time, they'll only learn half of the rights that's found in the Constitution, and that sucks for me as a teacher. That sucks because the other half are also equally important. That this is the half that helps you um, freedom from arrest, unwarranted arrest, freedom from unwarranted search, and so on and so forth. These are things that are important as a citizen of the Philippines. You have to know, but we can't have everything. I dec- we had to decrease the workload, and to decrease it more would give injustice not only to me but also to you, because these are the things that will equip you to be prepared for the future. But there are arguments also on the part of the students that say, what's why is it worth living for the future when I can't survive now? That nahirapan na ako sa requirements. And in that sense, that's true. That's valid. Understand that. And kung nahirapan kayo, it it needs a call for a revolution. I wouldn't say, nako, when I say revolution, it's scary kasi this might be the spark of the himagsikan ng 2022. No, no. Um, it's a revolution in the sense like how I teach when I taught world history. Revolutions can be in the aspect of agricultural revolution and the aspect of technology revolution, and same goes for here. Revolution in the sense that how do we try to change the minds of what is important, balancing it with what are the needs of a student in this day and age. That kind of revolution. It's very hard, but it takes a step. For me, understandably, maybe you're not hitting the right notes. Mean to say, you're not speaking to the right people. You speak to Twitter, something will change. But sometimes that output doesn't help that much. It might even make others anxious. It informs others. That's great. It informs me as a teacher. That's great because at least I can make changes in my classroom. But if it touches on people that don't have the power to make the change, one, they can be informed, which is great. But two, it could also add uh anxiousness to them happen to someone else. Therefore, it's happening to me as well. And they can't process it properly. Now, in this scenario, there's a responsibility in what you say online. But there's also responsibility for you that if you're feeling this way, reach out to the proper channels. Try going to SC. They're blockaded. Okay. Maybe through that path doesn't work. Reach out to your advisors. Okay, that might be helpful because at least in this scenario, for me as an advisor, I can start tapping onto your teachers and trying to give you as much academic consideration as much as possible. I can provide context to your teachers. And then it will be a domino effect, hopefully, to reach the higher post. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. And that's the thing. We're going back to how technology works, that how everything is instant. We want the change instant. And while it's not happening, we get hurt. We get, we listening to us. But maybe the mechanism is working behind the scenes. Or maybe we need your help to push that mechanism. Try to tap the right people. Like right now, I asked my advisees and my students, my Sockside students, let's not meet today, let's not meet this week, but let me know how you are and how you're feeling. And I did get responses. This is helping me try to create the frame of thought that this is important. This is something, okay, my students are affected, therefore I need to make adjustments at my level. At least for them, I can make it better for them. If I can collect the whole data showing that, oh no, a lot of my students are showing na nahirapan sila, this is the time I have the data to show upwards that there needs to be a change. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it needs help also from the students. Now, maybe students might be posting for clout, which is very hard to do against because seems clout is the one that gets attention. Honestly, and you can't go against it because clout does make things makes discussion happen, right? When Pisay hashtag Pisay do better, hashtag Pisay give us a break. Maybe it might have been started for clout out of spite or out of a truly true true meaningfulness to make the change. But in that scenario, there was a lot of people na napaso because of that. But again, it worked. So I mean, for me, honestly, I think um, if someone's not listening to you, reach out to someone else. Okay, but don't burden it too bad. No, try to rework that feelings to something a little bit more positive. Now, are we saying that uh move on? Are we
No.
honestly saying that move on? Like um dispense your feelings. You've said what you've said. Now do this and do that, or try to move past that feeling. No, we're not saying that. But what we're trying to say is that try to make it a little bit more progressive. Try to take the further step. Because if you get stuck here, it will really eat you up. It will really stop and hinder you. Especially we need help. Yun lang. We're reaching out if there are people that are reaching out to you, reach out back to them. Okay? So that's my take on this. Uh are we closing? Are we closing now? No,
Mm,
because okay, if I can give my personal experience, I'm taking the bar this year, and it had been postponed and postponed and postponed. Uh, and take note, these are bar takers supposedly from 2020, which was postponed to 2021, and then now to 2022. So we have bar applicants that were waiting for 2 years for this to happen for them. And in this scenario, um, why is it being postponed? It's being postponed because it's for the sake for themselves and for society. Now some people are saying na auto pass na lang yung mga bar takers. Why not just why not just pass them and then wala nang bar exam, make them lawyers? Since that's the thing. It's very you have to take into context that the bar exam also themselves it's meant to secure not it's not for the personal benefit of the individual. It's meant for society as well. You want to make sure that that law student that had been studying the law knows the law that he will be able to help others in the future. That's why I never felt bitter when I failed the bar exams because I knew that maybe I'm to defend my client in the future. Kawawa naman yung client ko pag they weren't able to get the justice that they needed. So in this scenario, I do understand why they had to delay it. It's something that a lot of people dream for, and they had to pause their lives for 2 years to review, to be in this limbo of 2 years waiting for the exam to happen. But there is a higher meaning to it, and I'm happy that our bar examiner is very vocal about his reasons why we need to postpone the bar exams. Supposedly, I should be taking the bar exam this week, but it had to be moved 2 more weeks. And I understand because we're in the surge of the cases. And he was very vocal about it. A lot of people opposed, they were vocal too, and he addressed it. Uh, so it's all about finding that person to that will be able to hear out the reasoning of the other side. So if it doesn't happen, if you can't go straight to the source, maybe you can find other ways to understand why these people, sorry, why the other people aren't listening to you. So that's my take. Your turn. I'm good. Wala na ako. You won't hear from me.
I actually kind of remember, ano, um,
I
you
mean, we
remember
still
that?
have 21 listeners though. Like,
Hmm?
you're just listening to two teachers ramble about
You remember,
students.
ano?
But
Do you remember when Nathan took the board exam?
yeah, he was confident though. Like, I didn't see any worry on his face.
No, but remember that there was the issue that, ano, the entire board
Mm.
exam might be invalidated, and
Yeah, yeah,
he
that
was
was.
signing for that board na if it gets validated, then he was for it, right? Parang,
Mm-mm.
and apparently there were uh, these are already ano, parang I'm not sure where I saw these, pero things like ano, the examiner himself was saying ano, parang uh, parang okay lang mangopya, and parang people justifying their cheating during that board exam, saying they don't know uh,
That they
what.
deserve to pass because they studied for this long in college. Therefore,
Mm,
they should be called engineers already.
mm. Or parang yun yan, they have a lot of different circumstances na parang basically parang they have reasons.
Mm-mm.
And yeah, it was so you see there's a lot of there's a lot of conflicting uh, reasons, motives. Okay, you have people who want to pass the board the right way, people who want to just plain pass the board for very specific reasons or for very personal reasons. Can't even really say that it's selfish because some are trying to do it for their families. Um, I mean, not selfish to a certain extent. Anyway. There's also the people trying to maintain the integrity of the board. So a lot of different people come into play, and the conflict that comes out of it, yeah, it's a loud argument of people trying to. It kind of feels like a shouting match, na parang palakasan lang ng palakasan ng sigaw. Whoever has
Mm-mm.
the loudest voice and is able to convince the most people, they win. And okay, with here, especially in okay, in the more specific context of Pisay. Um, oh wait, Nathan has a comment. Proctors were saying okay lang mangopya, deserve naman daw namin yung title ng engineer. Well, yun nga, parang a lot of people would have different ideas of what it means to be deserving of the title of engineer. And yun, It's a difference in values. It's a difference of experience. It's a difference of circumstance. So, and all of these is the result kung bakit there's all of these arguments. Okay, now going back to, I suppose, Pisay, the very strict or the very specific context of Pisay. Um, as for what the students should do, honestly, I'm all for it. I'm all for students making noise. Meaning to say, as long as I don't know, I prefer if you keep the discussion a discussion because sometimes it becomes memes, and the memes don't say much other than to just kind of make fun of the school. So if that's your angle, you can be better. I, I hope you can be better. Saying again, again, the goal in any discussion is really to provide that information, to provide that context. And if the information that you're giving out is the school isn't listening, okay, that's information. And you're looking for someone who will listen, and you're looking for someone who can do something. That's so
That's where we are. That's
mm,
where we are right now.
mm.
So
So
now
I'm not.
to give context, Mark.
Mm, yeah,
Let's give context. What are our thoughts on why the school needs to hold on to the academic calendar? As teachers, we're not saying that these are the actual reasons, but more on what could be the implications if we move the academics calendar. Is it okay? We talk about we give them
yeah,
our perspective of this. Okay.
yeah. You
So
wanna go
uh,
first or?
yeah, I'll go first. So
Mm,
my perspective as a teacher in this scenario is that this okay, this might not be exactly the reasoning behind the school, but these are the things that affect the academic calendar. Okay. One is the reason why schools need to stick to an academic calendar is because the leaves of teachers are very specific. That they're only required a set number of leaves because teachers aren't allowed to have a sick leave throughout the school year. All of their sick leaves are collected and placed into the summer because a teacher isn't allowed to be sick when a student is going to school.
Okay, just to contextualize, that doesn't mean that if we're sick, that parang the school bars us from taking a break. No, it's
Yeah,
just
that's
that
true. It's
we
just
have to make up
legally
the
legally
days that we
speaking. Legally speaking, because all workers have a set an amount of sick days or work leaves. But for teachers, we can't do that because we have to be also in school at the same time students are. So what the school systems do is that all sick leaves are collated and put into summer in order to satisfy the legal aspect for leaves. So in this scenario, if you delay the school longer for a shorter summer break, because that affects teachers, not only because they want the leave, but more on the legal aspect that they are entitled to that paid leave. Okay, that's the legal aspect. Other aspects. What if a student fails? Oh, okay, let's go to the graduates. To our graduates, they need to jump into their um earlier so that they're prepared for the college. Like the admissions, the preparations. If they don't get into the school that they wanted, they had to find an alternative school and so on and so forth. So the processing, the registration, and everything, they need to. That's why they graduate early. But if you delay that more, mahirapan sila, and they might not be able to get on board their college on time. That also applies to what if we have students that might fail Pisai, considering that we now have a grading system that actually fails students. What if the student, a Pisai student, fails and needs to find a school, but all schools had started their school years at the regular time and Pisai beyond that time? Mangyayari is that baka for one whole school year, leaving student, which is unfair for them. And yun, these are the aspects that might affect the if we don't stick to the academic calendar. For you, how about you, Mark? What's your
mm,
take on sticking to academic calendar?
well, I mean, no, it's really more in line with the idea that uh, every year has certain goals for a student. You're supposed to learn this so that you can proceed to the next level. And
Mhm.
then assuming that you've learned what you did, then you are fit to proceed with the next lessons. If we were to kind of cut the calendar because or to modify the calendar in order to because honestly changing the calendar is very close to changing the content. I
Yes.
mean, so it will definitely affect the next years. Another thing that probably passing the buck a little, pero admin answers to people too. Admin answers to government, admin answers to the board, admin answers to ano.
Mhm.
So the same way that teachers have to answer to uh, uh, our unit heads, we have to meet certain things that certain documentations and all of these things, and it's hard. It's hard to know because when the mere fact that they are in charge, it kind of defaults to them. Parang, okay, we try to explain there are certain conditions, but until they make a kind of change, then we continue. And sometimes that change takes a while. So while the extra provision or the extra amendment is not yet available, then we have to continue with what is. So uh, yeah, I suppose I'm thinking that admin definitely is trying to do something. It's just that it's not. It's I don't think it's as simple as na okay, yeah, parang you've told us na uh, students need a break, then okay, let's give them a break. A lot of
Okay.
people need
Now
to
the
agree.
question. Okay. Now
Mm,
the question is. Okay, that's our assumption as teachers. Okay, we're not
that's
saying that these were the actual
mm,
reasons. Now the main question is putting everything into context with everything that's going on right now in this in the Philippines, with all our students and their families getting sick. Does this outweigh? Sorry, does this reasonings that we have provided outweigh what's happening to our students right now? Now, we cannot answer that. We don't have the authority to answer that. We don't have the knowledge or uh the background information what's happening up after that. But know that we're listening. At least on our level, the teachers, we're all listening. And I can assure you that based from the meetings that we've been having as from our faculty level, we really are listening to you. So if we can leave at something, know that try to try to speak out. If it doesn't speak out well on your social medias, speak out to your parents, speak out to your team, because for us, we can try to provide as much help as we can. Right, Mark?
mm. And okay, well, so I suppose more in general in terms of
Yes.
uh, when it comes to people, when it comes to dialoguing with people and trying to get them to listen, trying to get them to um, understand that they're also processing things. Understand that even though that uh, as much as we'd like them to understand what it is that we're going through, uh, they also have their own things. They're trying to make their own ends meet. They're trying to make. They've taken in the information that you've given them, and they're trying to reconcile it with what they do know, and trying to come up with a way that I don't know. Well, they're trying to find out what can they do with that new information, and sometimes we'll be disappointed. Sometimes even after explaining as much as we did, showing everything, telling them everything, explaining everything, and they still hold their ground. They still uh, choose to believe what they believe, or they still decide to do what they've decided to do. And it can hurt. It can definitely hurt a lot because it feels like, what was the point of all of that talking? What was that point of all of that speaking, explaining? And because to talk about uh, these things, especially things that are very personal, things that we deeply believe in. It's very tiring, um, and for it to feel like that it's been disregarded, it can be very disheartening. However, at the same time, I hope that you don't think of it as a waste, because just because that they didn't change their mind doesn't mean that you weren't heard. You were heard, and to some extent, I do think that uh, they have come to understand. It's just that uh, as much as we'd like them to come over to our side, they also have their own reasons for believing what they do, for deciding what they do, and uh, we cannot force people to go along with our way of thinking. That's why there's discussion. That's why there is discourse. And so, um, when we do speak, when we do, um, try not to kind of grip too hard on that idea that if they don't change their mind, I wasted my time. No, you were able to express yourself. Uh, Maybe even, I suppose, honestly, personally, whenever I get to talk about personal things, I think of it as sometimes as practice that was I able to articulate it well? Was it? So it does help in a certain sense. But uh, I hope that you don't think that your time speaking out is something that's wasted. Um, it will be frustrating. There's no denying it. But uh, don't. I hope that it doesn't discourage you from deciding to speak out in the future. I hope it doesn't stop you from speaking out when you see that there's something that needs to be changed. And I hope that you continue to speak for for your values, for what you believe in, and to dialogue. And keep in mind that just as it's important for you to communicate your ideas to other people, also try to see if there are ways that those other people can communicate their ideas to you. Why are they doing what they're doing? You might not agree, you might not understand. It will definitely be frustrating for them, the same way that it's frustrating for you. But uh, that's the point of dialogue, to understand. And if we can understand, even if we don't agree, I think there's value in that. Okay, and then,
Thank you for the 20 that had listened to us, that joined us, kept us listen to us ramble on our thoughts. It's a little bit out there, but we had to be careful to what we speak because it's very divisive. But we wanted to make sure that we cover it generally before we go into it specifically. So that's why it was a little bit messed up. So go ahead, Mark. Take it away.
hmm, what I mean.
Closing ceremonies. The
Uh,
Philippine Science High anthem.
okay, bye bye. Closing. No. Okay, well, yeah, so thank you everyone for coming in. I I don't know, parang this was honestly a weird topic, or not more weird, parang because Sergio and I, we do try to go into a stream with different definite ideas as to where to take the idea. This one, we came into it and we were going left and right and not sure where it would end up. So, but still, we thought it was important, especially now, especially when it's relevant, uh, and hopefully we did sort of answer the question. I know we kind of went all over the place, but I hope that we kind of gave context as to yeah, parang, if you're feeling this uh, frustration of why don't they listen, hopefully some of the things that we've said kind of maybe it doesn't alleviate it as much, but it gives understanding of why it is frustrating, and that also has its own value. Any case, that's probably it for this. Unless someone wants to comment, because honestly, this is a hot topic. I kind of expected chat to go a lot faster. Parang, but
Same, actually.
but anyway, again, you're free. Feel free to use the
And then we
Discord.
got cancelled. We got
Hmm?
cancelled na yata eh. We got
Ah,
cancelled on Twitter na.
okay, sige, that's fine.
Right before our 1 year anniversary. Your 1 year anniversary.
I mean, weren't you there at the first episode?
No,
Anyway,
I don't think so.
okay. But in any case, uh, if you guys want us to discuss things, feel free to use the Discord. Again, there's a channel there for if you have comments, suggestions. You can, I guess, you can now use mentions in Twitter if you want us to pay attention to a particular topic that you want us to comment on. Because we want this to be, we want this to be relevant. So whenever there is something about the school that you like to see a teacher's perspective on it, then feel free to mention it on Discord or to use Twitter. I don't know how to use Twitter, so just uh,
Hmm.
Circu will help me. Okay, and with that, I think that's it for this week. Thank you all for those who have uh, stayed with
Tune
us
in.
for this hour and a half.
And the future people that would tune in. It's
Mm,
so weird that we get a lot of views even after the stream.
mm. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Hopefully with uh, let's go lighthearted next week, no? Parang
Yeah,
I feel like
lighthearted. I might
uh,
not be next week.
uh,
I might. I'm still thinking if I should be there. Well, we'll see. We'll see if next week.
okay.
What should we have? We'll think about what we would have next week.
Yeah, well, probably if there are
Valorant
no
tournament.
recommendations, there are no recommendations in Discord. I think I can post a poll of what's a possible topic. Okay, so thank you all for coming, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.
Bye everyone. Please take care. Take care.